Hello and welcome to the third installment of The Rise of House Thelak'vel. The last time that we saw the house, there had been some troubling events. The Weapon Master and his son are both now adjudicated of Salvatarm, and they went to destroy a cell of Vayrun worshippers. And when they defeated the leader of that cell, it was discovered afterwards that that was, in fact, the son of Overala, who is the first daughter of the matron. Very troubling news. And they returned back to the matron. Well, actually, just the Weapon Master did that. He spoke to her, and she had mentioned that there might be some sort of trouble down the line for the house. And so we open in the matron's chambers, and it would just be the females here. So it would be Salith. Is that how you're going to say it?
Shalith.
Shalith. And Okira, you'd be there, as well as Overala and Dylan Ray and the matron. And she is kind of like pacing up and down. She's wearing armor. It's like beautiful sort of silken chain. She's got that hand of agony that she always has with her. This like claw that goes over her hand. She's pacing up and down. And she says, Sarl was the firstborn son of my firstborn daughter. She looks at Overala with this like venom. His betrayal to the house was unexpected, to say the least. To have the firstborn son of a high priestess turn to worshipping the masked god is heresy and outrageous. And now this filth worm son of yours is dead, slain by the righteous hand of our weapon master, and a loyal servant of Salvatarm, and thus of Lolth. Now this is unfortunate, because torture would have yielded much information from the creature. However, you have two other children. One of them was a wizard. Perhaps there's something in the blood of that male that you have coupled with for so long. And she comes close to Overala, and she takes the index finger of her claw and puts it at her chin and like lifts her face. It has become clear to me that there is a rot festering in the heart of this house, and in 1 week, two males of this house have proven themselves utterly worthless and deserving of endless torture in the demon web pits. With this new revelation, a heretic in my house, drastic measures are to be taken to ensure the Spider Queen does not turn her favor away from us. All males of this house shall be gathered. We will test them through interrogation, through torture, and through tests of Lolth. We will expunge any possible seed of disloyalty to Thelak'vel.
Lithkira is just watching, waiting to see if Overala will say anything to the matron.
So Overala is like staring straight at the matron, which you know is a dangerous action in itself. The matron lifted her head so that she should look at her, and Overala is like unblinkingly staring at her. She seems resolute and stern.
The Shalith is almost as quiet. You can kind of hear her tapping the back of her belt with her fingernails as she looks at the ground and listens to everyone talking. As likely the youngest drow here, she knows that it is not her place to say anything, but she's listening to what the matron is saying, and the cogs are turning in her head, and she's waiting to have a chance to be able to speak, because she sees what's happening, and she's getting to the point where she feels like what's happening now can be a boon instead of another bane upon their house.
The matron kind of continues pacing, and she stops in front of Overala again, and she says, Overala, you will face a trial determined by the Spider Queen herself. And Overala, who is usually resolute and stern, you see her like falter for just a heartbeat, like her eyes become less focused for a second.
Lithkira looks down to hide her small smile.
Why don't you give me either a stealth or a deception to hide that smile?
Ooh, let's see. Fuck me. Mm. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. That is a 6.
So the matron, omniscient as she is, you see her red eyes just like lock on you, as you like lower your head to try and hide that smile, and like in a flash, she's at you, and she has that hand around your throat, and she gets her face like right next to your face. She says, "Do not smile too widely, daughter. While I'm certain of my own loyalties, yours too have been cast into question."
I am loyal only to you, honored matron.
She lets go of your throat and she slaps you with the gauntlet. What of the Spider Queen, you stupid bitch?
Your loyalty is to her, and therefore so is mine.
She like stands over you threateningly, and then she takes a step back. None of you are beyond suspicion. And she kind of paces up and down a little bit and like looks at each of you. Who would speak?
Shalith waits 3 heartbeats. No, sorry, 8 heartbeats. And she's waiting to see if anyone else does. And when no one does, she raises her eyes to look at the matron's feet to let her know that she's ready to speak.
Yeah, she walks over in front of you. And she would be taller than you are, certainly. And she is extremely proficient in bullying. And so she like stands over you, kind of like invading your personal space. Yes?
Shalith doesn't smile. She keeps to herself and she says, perhaps, grandmother matron, these trials and tribulations for our men and the trials and tribulations for your eldest can be used as a weapon against the other houses and not merely as a way to root out the evil and the corruption.
How so?
Other houses will undoubtedly be watching us. They will be looking for weakness to skim what they can, or at least for information. I feel as if we were to add more dramatics to these events, and if we were to sow the seeds and lie and water them and make it seem as if we're weaker, then once we've removed the corruption and the heresy, we can bait in the most foolish of the houses, destroy them, and use them to gain more favor that we've lost.
She takes that hand of agony and she like puts the finger to the tip of her own chin, kind of like tapping it like she's thinking. What is your name?
Shalith.
Yes, one of Fedruin's brood. That is surprisingly wise counsel. And she looks at the eldest daughters, none of which she gave that advice, with this like look of scorn.
I imagine Shelly, for the briefest instant, she would like side eye Lothkila, since she's the only PC here. But she'd probably just side eye her real quick, especially she just got slapped. And then she would look back to the mother matron's feet, and there wouldn't be a smile, but you would know, at least Lothkila, that she is very happy to have pretty much risen, temporarily as it may be, above you in the pecking order for good ideas and everything.
The matron continues pacing. Some of the other lesser daughters, younger daughters, one of them, who is, God, let me just check this family tree.
I get stuck.
Yeah. So it's Yaslara, who is one of your kids, Lothkira. She like lets out a shudder, like a trembling breath. He's obviously quite afraid of being here. And the matron just like slowly turns her head in the direction of that daughter. And then she looks at you and she like does an eye motion, like fix that shit.
I just nod my head in deference and shoot the daughter a dirty look and go,
Get out of my sight.
There's an internal facepalm happening when that happens.
So she shoos you away. And there's like a slave chained to the throne, and as you're leaving, she like picks up her whip and like takes out her frustration on that slave.
Poor guy. Charlize, since she's the eighth daughter of an eighth daughter, right? So I imagine she's not the last to leave, because are they like the youngest daughters here, like the ones who haven't even like been sent away yet? Okay.
All the females.
All right. So like she of like the official priestesses, I feel like she's the last one to leave. And as she's leaving, I'm just going to say that she kind of turns around and looks at the matron again, and then she looks at the youngest daughters. And what she's doing is she's seeing how they're reacting to what's happening, because again, she's working on plans to how to use these youngest daughters as well.
So there are a couple of children here, as in younger than 20, and they are not sure how to react. Like they look worried at the violence. They haven't gone through the training yet, and they haven't been. I mean, I would call it indoctrinated, and so would you. But like, you know, they haven't been shown the light yet of the way of Lolth, you know. And so like, there's a natural tendency to be like, oh God, what is happening? Why is this woman so terrible? So like that would be the youngest, the really youngest, like the ones who aren't on the family tree. They're that young. Lolth daughters are the youngest apart from you. And they're all kind of like hiding, most of them, their fear or like their revulsion or whatever it might be.
So I guess this is a question for Taylor. And Taylor, what would Charlize know about Lofkila? Like what, like any kind of like specialty, anything she's done of note? Like would she know anything or?
Lofkira was one of the daughters that survived all the training and everything, and is currently in service to Lolth and in training to be a high priestess. I mean, you know, her son most recently just got himself killed because he was an idiot.
All right.
But that was a son, so meh.
Meh.
I mean, she has been blessed with like a crazy amount of children.
That's true, and a lot of them are daughters.
Yeah, her and Fairdrune both have a lot of children, and so that like elevates them in status as well.
All right, so imagine that as we're coming out, after a few minutes, and like we're out of range of the matron's throne, so we don't hear the whipping anymore. Charlize would approach Lofkila, and when she approaches her, she looks her up and down once, and she smiles a coy, shit-eating smile, and she says,
"I slap you across the face." Right then.
Oh shit!
As you smack it, she doesn't stop it. She just lets it happen because she expects it. Because Charlize is known for, she's basically known for either stumbling into things, right, or for kind of riding the coattails of other people. So imagine like the oldest daughters, they hate her, or they disrespect her, or they don't see her as anything important. So as you slap her, she stumbles back for a second, and she lets the smile fade, and she looks to your feet because she knows you're going to want to see deference. When she does so, does Lofkira say anything, or does she let Charlize speak?
Lofkira crosses her arms and says, "Your niceties do not fool me. Raise your head, you don't mean it."
She raises her head, and you can see just like the darker imprint of where you smacked her. And she looks you in the eye, And when she first does so, you can see a look of superiority that quickly fades, and it becomes a look of subservience. And Charlie says, Lafkira, my aunt, I would like to offer you my assistance.
Why would I need your assistance?
The mother matron has said that I was the wise daughter this evening, but it does not interest me to be in the spotlight. I would like to tell you what I'm thinking, Lafkira. You can execute on it, and I will help you. And you will gain back favor that you have lost as of late. And then you will be the star once more.
Well, Kira kind of looks you up and down. You had one clever idea. Don't think that earns you anything in this family. Your loyalty, too, is in question, niece.
It is in question, aunt. But that being said, I feel like it would benefit us both if you were the one to move on my one good idea.
You may tell it to me, and I will consider it.
Well, again, I mentioned dramatics. It is very important that we feign our weakness to the houses watching. Now we are removing heretics and corrupt ones. We need to make it seem as if this is a bigger loss to our forces, a bigger loss to our strength than it really is. We need to seem as if we are crippled by this, as if we've lost standing, as if we're almost losing the favor of our queen herself. In reality, we're not. And then the fools, the ones who buy into it, the weak ones, they will come in, they will be watching. We find their spies, we talk to them, we give them false information, and we begin to engineer what will be a very swift and very beneficial destruction of a handful of houses.
Belarn still stands, and they have no love for us. Come, we will speak to the patron.
And Charlotte will go with her.
Thelak'vel, you're in Sorceer. Are you in a classroom or are you in your office?
We'll say I'm in a classroom, currently giving a lecture.
So there's a bunch of students, kind of like, there's always, when you are teaching, a mixture of like rapt attention and also like that attention is so rapt because they're worried about what might happen if they're not paying perfect attention to what is going on. The teaching style tends to be direct. And so you can see all these kind of young trainee wizards, like, you know, on edge, but paying perfect attention to what you're saying. So during the lesson, there is an interruption. There's a knock on the door of the classroom.
With a troubled sigh and a stern look at my students, I wave my hand, 2 fingers signaling silence. And I approach the door. I wait for a moment, listening, seeing if there's anything I can hear on the outside.
You can hear panting.
I open the door in a grand flourish, robes waving behind me, perhaps magically enhanced by a prestidigitation spell. And I glare down my nose at, well, who do I see?
It is your nephew, Balmok, who is one of the sons of Lothair. He has his eyes on the ground, but as you open the door, he like bows low. And he says, Revered uncle, please forgive the interruption. I've been sent by the priestesses of the house. You are required.
required. You understand that I'm in the middle of my lessons. What is the urgency of this summons?
It comes from the matron mother directly. There has been a troubling development that I cannot speak of here.
Yes. Are the summons immediate? Do you know? Has she given specifications on the time?
She said to go get you, revered uncle.
I see. I'll be along momentarily.
Yes, I will wait.
Yes. I'll close the door and stride over in front of the class, hands behind my back, and turn. Students, I have some business to attend to. This lecture will be postponed for today. However, you have your studies. I expect a perfect conjuration from every one of you by tomorrow. And those who fail, well, you shall see. I just let them linger on that, and I exit the class, gesturing for them to get the hell out.
Yeah, there's like a couple of like looks that pass between some of the students when it seems that something is going on. You have to leave. The implications are that something is wrong with the house, and so there's a couple of like looks that pass through that you would notice. You're a perceptive drow and wise to these kind of things. So you would see a couple of looks kind of pass between some of the students, but they would get up and like file silently out of the room.
After they all leave, I'll shut the door behind me and enact the arcane wards of sealing and gesture for my sniveling nephew to lead the way.
He does so. He takes the, I guess you would call it like the pedestrian route, or like the commoner's route through Sorcerer, which is like not the way that you would take. You know the secret passages, you know the quickest ways. He's not privy to such things, and so he leads you kind of like the long-winded way back into the main entrance chamber and then out into Mensa Branza himself.
Of course, I'm not about to reveal them to him either. So as I walk with him, I begin questioning him. So, nephew, has Mother given any more details? Is it just a simple summons? Surely you know something.
Well, I don't feel comfortable speaking about it here in the open, Reverend Uncle.
So be it. It must be a matter of some importance. Mother does know that I am teaching class. I can only imagine.
It is, Uncle, yes. I apologize again for interrupting. I know you are a busy tutor.
Yes. Is it perhaps related to that Coffee who got himself killed in the duel?
Partially.
Wonderful. This fool's ill-conceived plans is now coming down on me.
She's been furious in the last few days.
I'm sure she has. No doubt.
Been a number of developments. But it would be best if we spoke about it when we were at the house. And he's like so paranoid, you can tell. Like he's like shifty eyes all over the place. He's like not doing a good job at all of like pretending everything's fine.
Yes. If you could perhaps calm your nerves, that would be wonderful.
Yes, if we could stop a moment, because you're walking quite a swift pace, and he like stops, and you see him like take his two hands and kind of put them out in front of him, as if he's about to start a Tai Chi routine. He like takes a deep breath and centers himself, something he's learned in Mali Mike there. Apologies, Uncle. It has been, well, the matron was furious, and to be honest, she frightens me.
Yes, Mother is a scary woman and does not take being scorned lightly. I understand. I presume I'll walk the last bit of distance in silence, pondering what the implications could be. Mind abuzz, just 1,000 gears working.
Yeah, eventually you come upon House Thelak'vel. You would see that it is more radiant than before. I think you probably haven't been here since the attack on House Culgan, the successful attack.
It's been some time, and I do have a personal chambers within sorcery, so I spend a lot of my time there, to house matters as needed.
So you would see then that like there have been additional like fairy fire displays and stuff set up on the castle. It's a bit more grandiose than the last time you saw it.
Wonderful.
He leads you inside and is taking you in the direction of like the weapons chambers where you think you would find the weapon master.
Okay. Nephew.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, he's gone. Weapon master. What have you been up to this day? And I guess Naladin as well. You're probably hanging out together, I would assume.
I guess it would be sticking to our normal routines of training sessions and the like, and then later in the day, planning together the attack on House Bellan, or more to be more specific, the defense against House Bellan.
Hello?
Hello.
I must have dropped from the call.
Yeah.
I had asked why we moved to the barracks as opposed to Mother's chambers.
He gives you this look. It's kind of conspiratorial, and he says, "Well, it was suggested that maybe the male should speak first."
Really?
Yes.
You want to have a male gathering within the family walls? Truly brilliant. It's no wonder you're dropping like flies. So be it.
So then I guess you would come in. There would be Nilan, your father, Naladin, Eonar, who is your brother, and several other males here, many of them practicing at swordplay and things like that. But you were the last to arrive. Nilan, have you told like Naladin or whatever what's going to happen?
Shit. Hold on one sec.
No, I would have I assumed there would be like an announcement or word would have got around. I know it's the matron's place, this matter. But I think Naladin, knowing Nilan, would have seen that today is not quite his usual self, as if something weighs heavily upon him. Though if he can help it, he wouldn't have spoken in lieu of the matron about this matter. He wants to kind of minimize it as much as possible and choose what goes out. He's on the same wavelength as his granddaughter by the sounds of it.
Sure.
So he'd be like planning for that, planning how he can lure House Bellan by appearing weak because of the Inquisition that the matron's called.
So when the males are all gathered, a couple of minutes would go by.
Sorry about that, man. There's a train going by.
No, it's all good. So you would all be gathered, and then Overrala would like sweep into the hall where you are. And she would like look at all the various assembled males with this like look of disgust. And then she would look at you, Nilan, and give you a look of like grudging respect. And she would say, "The matron has summoned you. Follow me."
Overrala, what is her relation to me?
She's your older sister. She's the oldest child of the matron.
My eldest sister, okay.
Yeah. So she's a high priestess of Lolth. She's like exceptional at it as well. You know, definitely in the favor of Lolth.
And Nilan's favorite daughter.
Yes, and Elon's favorite daughter.
No one knows that.
Yeah.
I think it would be clear.
It's obvious.
No, it's not.
She's
And
so successful.
All right. Well, I will follow in her stead, arms folded behind my back, carrying myself with some air of importance, being the highest ranking male in the house. I at least have that going for me.
not quite.
Yeah, second highest, I guess.
House Wizard and Eldest Son, both positions above Weapon Master and Patron. Second, Weapons Master and Patron are directly below that.
I guess we'll see.
That's debatable.
So you guys are like led into this chamber that I've described before. It's this big kind of a dome-shaped chamber with these stairs that lead up to this throne that is a spider shape. And from that throne, there's a sort of invisible bridge that leads up onto this platform where there's always a cauldron of blood. The matron is sitting on the throne. She's looking incredibly regal. She's got similar to as you had seen her earlier. This like incredibly impressive, beautifully made suit of armor on. She's got her whip, her snake whip at her side, and she wears that hand of agony on her hand. And as the males kind of file in, many of them, particularly the younger sons, like get down on their knees and put their foreheads to the ground in supplication.
I'll step forward and sweep into a low bow, arms flourishing out to the side before rising up, once more crossing my arms behind my back.
Once you're in the various males, the daughters would arrive. So basically the whole house is gathered here at this stage. And the matron stands up to regard the males, and she says, "Worms, maggots, fodder. You are useless to me. In this past week, 2 incidents have scarred this house, possibly irreparably, thanks to the actions of males. First, the whelp Adrak decided to get himself into a duel with a member of the 5th house. Thankfully, he's dead. But more troubling, a son of this house, a son of Ulvirala, was discovered to be a leader of a Vayrunian cell, a traitor, a heretic to the masked god."
At that, Naladin, his eyebrow raises slightly as he shoots a glance to his father at that news.
It is clear that the males of this house cannot be trusted. It is clear that their loyalty is in question. It is clear that everyone's loyalty is in question and that there's some sickness that festers at the heart of this house, and I intend to cut it out. There will be trials, tests, interrogations. None will leave. The house will be sealed until we get to the bottom of this. And she like sweeps the room with her gaze. If any of you know any information of disloyalty, of heresy in this house, now is the time to reveal it.
So, let me ask a quick question, background-wise. Have there been any of the lesser males that have been particularly of a problem to Naladin? Or given his position that they, pretty much mind their P's and Q's?
I guess unless you had been investigating them, you probably would, like, most of them are, I wouldn't say polite, but most of them are like, fearful of you and your position, since you're like an eldest, you're in the top line basically.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, there's plenty of them who are shits, but I don't know if you would suspect them of anything.
Oh, well,
heretical or
no.
disloyal.
Yeah, I would. I'm not. Yeah, because I didn't investigate that. I'm just talking about in general, any that that have like wronged me, or like if there's any that might have a few of their own like loyal men, kind of their own clique going, that could potentially become a threat to me.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, there's plenty. I mean, everyone's a schemer. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, so I imagine whatever one that I've come to deem the most dangerous, while I'm not saying anything at the time, my gaze will pointedly turn to him and those that stand with him, and remain for a few moments before turning back forward, making sure that he catches my gaze upon him in response to that question that the matron asked.
So I guess there's just like this incredibly tense silence as she like stands there for what's got to be like a full 2 minutes of silence, waiting for someone to step forward. And like the snakes on her whip are just going mental. They're like snapping and they're hissing. They're clearly excited to get going, get to work. She comes to like the edge of the steps and she takes one step down. There will be no mercy, no quick deaths if I discover something past this point. Another step. Thelak'vel, you have long been a loyal member of this house, and yet you carry a trait that tends towards disloyalty in males. You're a wizard. The son of Overala was a wizard. He used that power and that freedom to turn from the Spider Queen. You, of course, will be tested as all others.
Of course, Mother. If I may speak freely.
Speak.
The male in which you speak was an arrogant fool, overcome with the power the arcane arts grant. Unlike him, have higher aspirations in which will grant us great favor in law, grant us a stronger position in the grand city of Minzo Berenzin, and rise our house to even higher ranks. I have been nothing but loyal, and will continue to be nothing but so.
The Spider Queen will see exactly how loyal you are. And one of the snakes just like lashes out, although she's still quite far away from you, but it like lashes out in your direction. Another step down this huge staircase. You can see that Gandring is terrified. He is the other son of Ulverala. He is also a wizard, and so he is standing, looking extremely nervous. And he's trying to hide that, but he's having difficulty with it. Yeah, and he's looking pretty terrified.
So I guess at that point, Naladin will step forward as he drops to a knee, bowing his head to the matron, waiting for her to deem to give him her attention.
Speak, Judicator.
Yes, matron mother. I cannot help but ask what the brother of the traitor knew of this. How could he have not seen? How could he have not known?
You see her like, I wouldn't call it a smile. It's more like when a wolf pulls back its lips in a snarl. She's got sharp teeth, this matron, and she kind of like pulls back her lips in a similar sort of fashion. It does seem unusual that you would know nothing. And Gandring just like looks and he says, "Oh, matron mother, I swear I am loyal to the house. I have always been loyal to the house and to Loth." And she takes another step down. Judicator, you will interrogate Gandring with the help of Loth Kira. Nolvirala gives her this look like, that's my son, I should be able to. But no one says anything.
So with that, I'll rise with a low bow and step back. It shall be done.
Lithkira inclines her head as an indication that she wishes to speak.
Speak.
Do you wish this done at the moment, or shall we take him to a private place?
When we have finished this little gathering, each male will be taken somewhere and interrogated. If the interrogation is unclear, they will then be subjected to some tests by the Spider Queen.
As you say.
She continues to walk down the stairs. She takes them two at a time now. She's getting close enough now that she's almost level with the various people standing in the line. And you can see that like some of the younger males are like beginning to like almost like, you can see like the fight or flight response in them. Like they want to leave just so badly. The fear is palpable. This is your last chance to come forth with any information that you may have. If I discover that anyone has withheld anything, if I discover that anyone has lied to me, the death will be agonizing. And it will take centuries.
Lithkira looks over at Ulverala to see what her reaction is in all this.
She is visibly pissed off. Like there's, it's hard. Yeah, she's big. Ulverala is even for a female, big, very strong, very burly. And you can see there's like maybe involuntary flexing of muscles in arms and like fists kind of clenching and unclenching as she's like watching this go down.
Does she seem like she's nervous at all? Like she would know anything and have any reason to be nervous?
You can give me insight.
I can try. I don't roll well. 19.
So you think she's just extremely angry. It seems to be just like this fury at the situation, and like this rage at her children for having put her in this position.
While she's studying her, once he steps back into formation, Naladin's gaze remains on her son. His features are expressionless, though his eyes are almost giving off a predatory glee as he does not remove his gaze from the male.
Yeah, you can see Gandring is like he's like looking down on the ground, trying to keep his eyes focused on like a bit of stone in front of him that he is just like staring so intensely at. He doesn't want to look at anyone. He doesn't want to raise his eyes for fear of what might happen. Yeah, and you can see that he is extremely nervous. His breathing is like pretty frantic.
Is it possible to get a read if this is just fear at the situation, or perhaps there's something deeper?
With an exceptional insight check, possibly.
18.
Nah, you can't tell.
Okay, well, either way, it's very satisfying.
Yeah, there's a lot of quivering going on, a lot of fear. People are clearly terrified. The matron mother kind of gets to the line now where the people are standing, and she does that thing that she has done previously, where she paces up and down. And she begins to like number off people basically with males to go and question them. So the first one to be questioned is Gandring, since he's the big one, the most obvious suspect. Then the kind of the lower sons as well. So like Balmok, Tebrin, which are your sons, Lokira, and then Dylan Ray's sons and Phaedron's sons as well. One by one, slowly but surely. So then Lothkira and Naladin, you would basically head to one of the interrogation chambers with Gamdring, who's like walking between you two, looking very nervous. Shalith and Dylan Ray, who is like the other sister, the other daughter of the matron, you are going to be questioning Kjorlin, which is one of Phaedron's sons, which is your brother, Shalith. Trelriel, you're going to be questioned by Ulverala. And Nilan, for now, you are free. So, yeah, you come into this little interrogation chamber, Naladin and Lothkira. You've been here lots of times. It's the same chamber that you would use to torture and interrogate enemies. So there's like torture equipment laid out, chains and stuff hanging from the walls, spikes and whatnot. It's like this dank, disgusting little dungeon. And yeah, Gambring, dressed in his kind of wizardly finery, comes and stands at the circle and turns to face both of you.
Yeah, when it's first indicated that we should go, of course, I fall into the back position of giving deference to Lothkira, moving behind the male, my eyes boring into him as if he's a dead man walking, my hands loosely riding on the hilts of my blades on my hips. As we approach their interrogation chamber, I give a smile to his back as my fingers briefly trace the symbol of Silverterm on my new cloak as I hold the position at the door once we enter, watching him and waiting for Lothkira's directions.
Yeah, we get in the room and she'll motion Gamdring to get to the center. And she'll wave a hand towards you, Naladin, saying, "Brother, would you care to ask the first questions to this nephew of ours?"
I'll offer a slight smile and then a flourish bow in response as I move to pace around the male, stopping behind him and leaning in close, my voice lowered, not a whisper, but quiet, though probably in the silence of this room it echoes loudly as I say, "Tell us what you know of your brother's plans, and perhaps some bit of mercy will be granted to you."
He closes his eyes and takes a deep breath in, and then out, and then in and out. It takes him maybe 20 seconds of breathing.
Well, when he's in between breaths, after 2 or 3, still leaning close, Naladin will yell in his ear, "Speak!"
He flinches from that. "This is unnecessary," he says. "I have been loyal to the Spider Queen, and I am loyal to this house. My brother was far more advanced in his skills than I. We never..." And he gives you this look.
I'll begin chuckling then as I pace around to stand in front of him, and I'll raise my hands indicating the door, and he goes, "Unnecessary. So I should just release you and explain to the matron mother that you believe what she has ordered is unnecessary then."
The matron mother is wise and powerful. What I mean is unnecessary is this treatment. I have done nothing wrong.
You are brother to the traitor and the heretic. That is enough to merit an interrogation.
And
She
you were
pulls out
aunt to the heretic.
she
and you were
pulls out
uncle.
a dagger. It's like, "Do not be insolent, fool."
He was my brother, yes. But that is not my choice. That has never been a decision I made. It is a happenstance. We were not close. He was cruel and hateful to me. He belittled me constantly.
And you claim you knew nothing of his heresy? No inkling, no intuition, suspicion that something was wrong?
He spent most of his time in Sorceer. He was an instructor there, as is our house wizard. He was never here. And in Sorceer, he was an instructor. I am not. I was going to lessons. I had none with him.
At that, I'll raise a brow, turning to Kira. "So you are saying that perhaps there is something linking him to the house wizard then?" As I turn back to face him.
That is not what I said.
That's what you implied. It was Sorceer that linked them together. So where he spent his time.
That they are instructors, you made that link as well?
I said that because I do not often spend time in the company of instructors. They are above me. They are high above me. I am a student. My brother gave me no more time than Thelak'vel would, as is befitting their station. Kira, Reverend Priestess, I'm sure that you do not spend much time with your nieces.
No.
You seem to be confused. This is not her interrogation. This is yours.
I'm trying to make you understand that we were not close. We spent no time together. I hated him.
Hate would not preclude you from working with him in this, to have fallen with him.
And in all your hatred, Did you never wish or hope that he might do something so stupid, so treacherous, as to worship the masked god?
No. It weakens the house. It makes us look weak. It makes it look like we have traitors in our midst, heretics. We have been blessed by this house. We have many priestesses, and we have the favor of the Spider Queen. This revelation is shocking to me and disgusting. But am I glad he is dead? Certainly.
I start casting a spell. He needs to make a charisma save.
Oh, that dice is gone forever.
It's DC 15.
Gets a 19 on the die.
All right, nothing happens. But every 6 seconds he has to make it again.
It says, I will submit to any test you believe is necessary. I will submit to any test of love that you think I need submit to. I have nothing to hide. I have been loyal to the Spider Queen and to this house.
But you have seen... Oh, go ahead.
No, go on.
I'll begin pacing around him again. So you claim to be innocent and also ignorant of any treachery of those around you.
If there are members of the masked god in this house, I have no knowledge of that. I had no knowledge that my brother was involved. But that is the way of the masked god, always treacherous, always sneaky, underhanded, cowardly, pathetic.
And by your own words, those are the sorcerer, and he says the word almost if it leaves a foul taste in his mouth. Those that are above you, as your brother were and this house wizard were, associate with each other rather than the likes of you. Yes?
I do not know the comings and goings of our house wizard, nor do I know the comings and goings. Did I know the comings and goings of my brother?
You seem to know a fair bit about the masked god. Where did you get your knowledge?
I know as much as any of us would know. Anyone who has attended training, we are taught to hate and revile the masked god, as we are taught to hate and revile Elistray. And I can tell you that she worships the moon and dances on the surface. This is not deep information that I know. This was taught to me by priestesses.
I pick up his hand and I draw the symbol of Lolth in the back of it with my dagger.
He initially tries to pull it away, but then thinks better of it. And as you're doing it, he looks at you and he says, "These hands are valuable to the house. I need them for spellcasting."
You'll have them. I'm not taking it off. Honestly.
Yeah, so you cut the symbol into his hand, and blood begins to run from the cuts that you make, but there's no other effect.
I look over at Naladin. It is enough for me.
I will offer a bow and step back.
I am free to go.
You are free to go to your quarters.
Could you see to this wound, sister or aunt?
She'll walk over to a little brazier, and she'll grab some ash out of it, and she'll smear it on the back of his hand, and then cast Cure Wounds and leave a darkened shadow of the symbol of Lolth on the back of his hand.
Nice. So, Thelak'vel, you've been brought into a similar sort of dungeon room, this like dank cellar, and you can see torture equipment kind of arrayed along the walls and stuff. But there is like a stout wooden table set up with a chair on each side. Ulverala comes in and she sits in one of the chairs, and she points that you should sit in the one opposite.
Is it just her?
Just her, yeah.
All right. I'll move over and pull the chair out and sit down, crossing my arms on the table, and I'll bow my head. Greetings, sister. Been some time since we've been in the same room together.
It has.
I am to be interrogated.
Yes, you are cursed with the weak will of a male, and so it is suggested and implied, and I suggest likely, that you two have fallen to the masked god.
Yes, well, I can assure you that is not the case. Things are beyond what such a feeble god could provide anyways. Only through the power of Lolth will I someday ascend to the title of Archmage of Minzo Berenzin.
There's like this sort of lyrical laugh that comes out of her.
Yes. It's going to be a long and arduous road, sister, but one that will bring great favor to our house.
I believe it will be the work of many centuries to attempt to overthrow Gromf Benra.
Oh, of course. It is not a task that I take on lightly, but a goal that I will pursue. You see, I have vision. Something your son lacked, unfortunately.
Pow! Punch in the mouth.
I spit the blood on the floor. I adjust my jaw slightly. I meant no disrespect, of course.
My son was a worthless piece of shit, but only I can say that about him. Oh, and he's gone.
Hey, Lloyd, are there doors on the interrogation rooms? Or is it just an opening?
Yeah, there's doors, so yeah. They're like magically sealed and stuff, so you can't hear what's inside.
Right, so I don't know, like, what is there etiquette? Like, are you allowed to, like, interrupt one, or is that, like, automatically, like, an execution type situation? I'm not sure what the...
I guess, like, if you want to risk walking into the room with Ulverala, you can do it. I don't know.
I'm not going to walk in. Basically, I'm going to knock and stand outside and give her the option to answer or not.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a certain protocol. Sure. So you knock on the door.
Yeah, I'm going to risk it, knowing that there's potential for... But I'm going to risk it. So I'll knock and step back, like, to the side.
Sure.
So when the door opens, she'll be able to see me, and I'll have my head bowed.
So Keith, I don't know if you caught the last thing that she said, is that she said her son is a piece of shit, but only she's allowed to say that.
Yeah.
And then there's a knock on the door, and I think even you would get a fright. The like look as she like a snake just like snaps her look towards the door, and she like stands in a fluid motion and moves over to the door, rips it open. What?
When she does that, I will bow low and remain so as I speak. I'll say, apologies, I know that you are at important work, but I thought you would wish to know that your sister is satisfied at the loyalty of your son.
She tries to hide a smile, but fails.
And I would have not wished to interrupt you, but he did mention that his brother was an instructor, and although he did not speak to details or seemed willing to speak more of it, but he did mention the house wizard as well. I do not know if there's a connection there, but I thought you would wish to know.
Can I hear this?
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's right in the doorway. I'm not like, yeah.
Okay. I'll just shake my head at this. What relation is
I'm the sixth son, so I'm your younger brother. Separated by 4,
yeah,
5.
Of course you plot treachery against me.
I'm just revealing the information that I received in the interrogation.
Yes, it's such
That's
a
my
convenient
duty.
time.
So once I relay, okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, once I relay that information, I'm just silent and remain bowed, as to not provoke her in any manner.
Yeah, she nods and she says, "We will speak after the interrogation." He closes the door.
And I will wait for several heartbeats, just to be safe, and then I will rise, glancing at the door for a few seconds before I turn, making my way away.
She walks back to the table and she sits. And she says, "Brother, you're an instructor at Sorcerer. You're an extremely valuable asset to the house. This is foremost in my mind as I conduct this interrogation. It is clear to me also that my son was an instructor at Sorcerer. I do not know how well you knew him."
I had very few dealings with him, sister. I have important work to attend to with teachings in my class. Keeping an eye on the students of some potential and what houses they belong to. I'm able to garner much information through my position, as I'm sure you're aware. What houses have aspiring wizards of some potential? This is a great asset to us. And through my position, again, as I'm sure you're aware, while they were within sorcery, my word is law. I can end them if need be. Again, a powerful asset to the house.
There is a temptation, I am certain, in your weak-willed kind. You have a lot of freedom in Sorcerer. You have a lot of autonomy from your rightful rulers. It is a place for males where you can practice your lesser magics. Not gifted by the gods, by the goddess. I would imagine that there is so much more freedom in the way that people speak to each other there. Less rigorous in hierarchy, less strict. Did you see any signs in my son that he may have fallen to this dark path?
I cannot say that I have. Again, I had few dealings with him. My studies are in conjuration. My focus is there. He taught, what did he teach? Do you know?
He was an abjurer.
An abjurer, yes. He taught abjuration, the lesser cousin of my superior craft. I sought not to tarnish myself in dealings with him. Good fortune it would turn out to be as well, considering the situation. Perhaps I could have words with some of his previous students, glean some information from them that might be of value. Assuming, of course, I make it out of this interrogation alive.
She stands up and begins to like pace. A gesture she's obviously taken from the matron. She paces up and down as she's thinking. I believe that you are innocent of this. I don't think that you would stoop to the worship of Veyron, but I'm not so certain that you don't know anything about cells that might exist. That in Sorcerer you've heard nothing.
Dear sister, I would be willing to subjugate myself to an enchantment, if you will, if that satisfies you.
Yes. I suppose the spider queen would be the judge of how truthful you are. And so she starts setting up kind of paraphernalia and like candles. She begins to draw things on the table, like carve it with a knife, like a ritual sort of dagger, symbols. And she begins to chant, and you feel, I assume you're not going to resist, are you? It's basically
No.
going to be like a zone of truth, yeah. And so you feel like that magic wash over you. And then she like stands behind you as you're sitting at the table, like behind your chair, and like leans on the back of the chair. Do you know of any Veyronian activity?
No.
Do you have any inkling that my son was a treacherous piece of shit?
No.
And you can like feel her being angry at the lack of information. Fine. She drops the spell. She goes back and sits opposite you, and she says, you will use every piece of cunning that you have in that brain of yours, and you will root out whatever you can in Sorcerer. You will search tirelessly for these cells. Destroying them will bring glory to our house. I'm sure you were aware of this.
Of course. To stroke my chin ponderously. Seems that, yes, as you said, in doing so, sister, not only can I root out potential competition, but I can bring lost favor to the house. Abundance.
I'm satisfied for now. You can return you to your quarters here in the house.
Oh, let me see if I can even remember where my room is, dear sister. With that, I'll stand and bow, showing her proper respect. She is a high priestess, after all. If that is all,
You may
and I'll
go.
wait for- and I'll leave.
So as you're leaving, you can hear just the noise of like the room being fucking wrecked, like tables being flung around the place. And just, she like wrecks the place.
Deep within me, this brings great joy. With that, I'll make my way through the halls to search out my room. If I happen to run into that shit-eating little brother of mine.
Yeah, I think I mean, if you were in any way inclined to look for him, I think you would find him.
Yeah, he wouldn't be hard to find.
As I make my way down, I'll just walk up beside him and say, "Hello, little brother. How are things going in the house?"
Well, perhaps you've forgotten, but not well. It seems we have traitors in our midst.
Yes, how can I forget when I was so sharply reminded of late as I look back towards the room?
Does he have any kind of
He-
mark or bruise from where he was struck?
No, actually, I don't. Uh, I got my ways. I look unmarred.
So I just follow your glance to the door and then back to you and nod. It seems you are none worse for the wear, though.
Yes, well, sister is quite upset. I would say I passed with flying colors. We're most pleased to know that her in-house wizard is faithful as always. Are you to be interrogated, brother?
Of course.
Indeed. Has that yet happened, I wonder?
No. It is to be done
Mhm.
at the matron's will.
I see. Let us catch up a bit. I hear you've been promoted, if you will.
Yes. I was with Nalan when we discovered the traitors and eliminated them. The
Yes,
spider who waits has deemed me worthy, and I am among his ranks as adjudicator now.
very good. A powerful asset to the house indeed.
Especially in
So-
these times.
Yes, very much so. I have some aspirations to see the house grown to further heights. Tell me, do you have any irons in the fire, so to speak? Perhaps we could collaborate a great downfall. Your sword, my magic. Just think of the possibilities. I kind of wave a hand out, grandly, as if painting some vision.
A sly smile will briefly touch Naladin's lips as he gives a nod. We must be ever watchful and work to earn our place within the house. As you've seen, some of those above us, well, let's just say they do not take kindly upon us.
Of course not. And tell me, how is father doing these days?
As always, he not only seems to have lost favors, but that of the matron mother as well.
I assume his arm is as strong as it ever was.
Mm. By what remained of the head of the traitor, I would say it grows stronger every day.
Indeed, we're blessed to have such a skillful weapons master. Perhaps he will rival Zach Nafine himself.
Yes, it is a shame that you could not be present, but perhaps you've heard when we took down House Colgan, he presented the matron's head of that house to the matron mother himself.
Very good. I'd expect nothing less of him. Unfortunately, my work in Sorcerer keeps me quite busy. A thankless job, one would say, but it gives me many eyes, if you will.
There's a
There's a
crack of
student.
a whip, whoosh, as Dylan Ray, one of the daughters, is walking down the same corridor. Says, "Who gave you authority to be meeting here and speaking freely? You would be confined to your quarters. It is a time of Inquisition."
I was simply on my way and ran into my dearest brother.
Continue on your way then, brother.
I will bow, of course.
Yeah,
And
and oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'll throw a sly wink your way, and that roguish grin that seems to grace my lips more often than not could be seen as I begin walking.
For my part, I won't respond verbally. I will bow low probably just short of how low I bow to the matron herself as I give way to her, and then my booted feet echoing softly as I begin making my way to my quarters.
So it goes on for quite some time, this interrogation. You are called on many times, back and forth. And it's not too long before you yourself are called, Naladin. You're brought to a dungeon by Dylan Ray and Shalith.
So, having seen firsthand this is done, I will enter and move to the appointed place, head bowed until I am addressed.
So Dylan Ray is not quite a high priestess, but she's getting there. Not as big, not as beautiful, not as talented as Ulverala, her lesser in every way, though still a great asset to the house. She kind of walks around you a little bit.
Yeah, as in the hall, I pay a great deference to her. As I said, just a little bit short of like what I would show to the matron herself. And if she takes notice of it at all, you know, she would have known with my other behavior, it's even more so than what I show overall.
She like gets close to you, and you remember the various times you've lain with her. You've sired a child with her. She looks at you and she says, "Convenient that you spent some time with this cell of Vayrunian worshippers. Convenient that you found it so easily. Convenient that you escaped unharmed.
Yes, the blessings of Salvatar and Loth are mighty indeed."
Shalith," she turns to look at you. This is a skill you will have to learn, the interrogation of spineless worms. And then she like takes a step back and she looks at you and she gestures towards Naldine as if he's like a particularly tasty dinner.
Shalif looks at Naldine, and then she looks at Dylan Ray, and then she looks back at Naldine, and she takes a step forward. When she does so, and she's looking at you, Naldine, what does she see on your face? What does she see in your eyes?
The closest thing I could say is a serenity. He knows that this is dangerous, but he has no fear, because he knows in his heart that he is loyal. There are those within the house that he has, you know, aspirations to perhaps bring down, because there's others in the house he would see raised higher. But his loyalty to Selvaterm and in turn Loth, as you know, the protector and champion of Loth, is absolute.
Seeing this serenity, there's like this weird sense of drow purity in your eyes. She reaches to her hip and she pulls something loose, and it's thin. It's wrapped in some kind of fabric or leather or silk. You're not quite sure. And she's holding it between her two index fingers, and she takes another step closer to you, and she looks to you, Naladin, and she asked, "What exactly happened, Naladin, when you killed the heretic?"
The honor was Nolan's. We came upon them in one of their secret places, an altar to the masked one. We faced several of them, and I myself was incapacitated after having dealt with a few of the lessers, and it was Nilan who took the life. In fact, I did not know the identity of who it was until the matron herself announced it as what was left of him was unidentifiable.
So then, after you figured out who the identity was, what was the first thing that you felt, Naladine?
When I found out the exact entity, or that there was a traitor within the house?
Both.
I'll say when we first discovered that there were servants of the masked one, I was offended. I cannot say there was not some pleasure in learning the identity of who it was.
And she turns and she looks back at Delaware. What is Delaware's face when he says that he felt some pleasure at this?
There's like this eyebrow that's raised. She actually speaks. She says, "You would take pleasure in the weakening of our house, the death of one of our powerful wizards."
It was the removal of weakness. One such as that has no place in this house.
An answer straight from the teachings, well rehearsed.
At that, I'll smile and give a slight bow. Perhaps, but it is also from within. For above all, I serve the spider it waits and his queen, Loth.
Shalith turns and she looks back at Delaware and she steps back, indicating now that her expertise is not up to par for someone so, I guess you would say, resilient, so pure in drow ways. And she's indicating for Delaware to kind of step forward and take lead. Would she do so?
Yeah, she would give you a look of like, I guess it's like disgust and disappointment. They're probably the same thing for drow. This look of like fucking useless. And she steps forward towards Naladin.
All right, perfect. So the moment she does that, and this is where the shenanigans begin, Lord, that I was PMing to you. We move back about 5 minutes in time, right as they're entering the chamber. As the doors close behind them, the camera, you see a foot step down, and the camera moves up, and you see that Shalith has actually been outside of the door this entire time. She has been saying a prayer silently to herself and channeling the divinity of Loth to create an illusion bestowed upon her by her goddess to send in here that is intelligent, and has been an illusion that they've been talking to this entire time. And now that she is accounted for and she has her alibi, she says another prayer to herself, and she steps back, and as she does so, she completely disappears. And she blinks once, and you see the world from her perspective, and she is seeing everything in this wispy gray shade, almost like as everything is ghostly around her. And she has used a blink spell to move into the ethereal plane. And she begins to move down the hallways to one particular door. And as she opens up the door, the camera shifts again to a flashback 3 weeks ago. You see a masked drow taking a parcel from this Sylph Bar gnome, this deep gnome. The camera shifts again, and you see Yaslara, one of Lord Lothkira's daughters. As she leaves her room, a slave goes in to tidy up, and he slides the parcel into basically a nook and cranny, since it's hid, so that it is hid. The camera shifts again. That slave is now floating face down in the Great Lake. He is dead. And then the camera shifts a last time, and we see Shalith in front of this door. And the door swings open. Now imagine that when Yaslar and her interrogated male turn, they don't see anyone in the doorway, Lloyd. I imagine they're pretty surprised. They look like a what the fuck face kind of thing going on.
Yeah, I guess Lara would like look up in confusion at the door opening, and seeing no one there, she would like instinctively grab for a weapon, assuming the worst, but doesn't see anything.
She grabs for the weapon, and Shalith grabs for that long wrapped thing that the illusion was showing to Naladin. And she takes off the wrapping, and you see the wand of fear underneath it, this long, thin black wand, a small animal lizard skull at the end of it, these exotic figures hanging off of it. And she's going to point it directly at them from within the ethereal plane. And she's going to murmur a word in Infernal. And as she does so, both the male and Yaslar are going to need to make a DC 15 wisdom saving throw. And I spend 2 charges to cast a cone of fear on them.
Okay, so yes, Lara fails, but the male actually makes it incredibly.
That's fine. So what happens is, specifically with the cone of fear, she has to start moving away from me. I imagine since she can't see me, she kind of just goes crazy with fear, and I imagine she runs out and starts making a scene.
Yeah, she like initially like she runs to the back of the room. You can see she's like breathing heavily. The male's like looking at her like this is a test, you know, and he's he's got both his hands on the table, palm down. He's like looking at her like, and he doesn't know what to do. And she then like begins screaming and like runs out of the room into the corridor.
Perfect. As she's screaming and running out of the room of the corridor, I imagine that these other like chambers, like these other like dungeon interrogation rooms, people are coming out and being like, "What's going on?" Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I imagine one of these people might include Delaray and Naladin. And as Delaray steps out, Shalith slips in, and she stands on the same spot in the same space as her clone is moving. And she ends both effects at once as if she had never gone, right? So she's actually there now as Yaslar outside is screaming, yelling bloody murder, running up and down the hallways. And what Shalith is intending is that she's planted this forged evidence, this forged letter inside of Yaslar's room. And she's now basically made Yaslar make a scene, hoping that she draws attention to herself and that she's a bit investigated by this because it makes no sense for a daughter to be doing this, or a granddaughter, basically a priestess to be doing this. And she's hoping this parcel ends up getting discovered at some point. That's like the grand plan she's doing.
Yeah, so Dylan Ray comes out into the hallway, and like you can see a couple of other like lesser daughters like stick their heads out, and they see that Dylan Ray's in charge of the situation. They just like fucking close the doors and go back into their rooms. Dylan Ray like walks up to Yaslar, who's screaming, and she's like, "What are you doing? Silence! Silence!" And she just continues screaming. And so she like walked up to her and like bodily grabs her by the shoulder and the throat and like slams her into the wall. And she's like, "Get a hold of yourself!" Slapped her or whatever, and she just continues screaming. And so Dylan Ray like takes the whip and one of the single head she has, the snake, sinks its fangs into Yaslara, who immediately falls asleep down onto the ground. Dylan Ray is like confused. She puts the whip back into the thing at her side, and she looks around.
Shalith is standing back in the doorway, in between Delaray and in between Naladin. And she looks to Naladin, seeing that he's being still, as Din said in the chat. She looks back to Delaray and she says, What is going on, Aunt?
I don't understand.
Lothkira arrives. What is happening?
Your spawn was screaming.
What did you do?
I hit her, so she stopped.
Shalith has fallen silent and she's moved into the background.
Lithkira's like knelt down and is looking over Yaslar's body, looking for any kind of signs of poison or anything that would stand out and give reason for her. I imagine she won't find anything, but
Well, yeah, there's a wound from just right now on the shoulder.
Yeah,
but other than that, no. You wouldn't notice anything. Dylan Ray looks at you and says, take her to one of the interrogation chambers. His behavior will not stand.
Lithkira just raises an eyebrow. Her turn will come soon enough.
Her turn will come when I say it comes, younger sister.
Then shall you do it?
Put her in a fucking interrogation chamber.
As you say. And I'll just kind of grab her by the arm and start pulling her.
Yeah, she turns on her heel and goes back into the room where Naladin, I imagine, is sitting still exactly the way that he had been sitting, like hasn't moved a muscle. And she sees that you haven't moved and wanders around again. She begins to cast a spell. It's Zone of Truth again. Are you going to resist or try and resist, Dennis?
No.
Yeah. So then she would go through the motions of asking you like an exhaustive list of questions, but you generally have nothing to hide, and so she will eventually be satisfied with your answers and kind of nod and command you to go back to her chambers.
So once I'm given leave, I will rise. I'll bow before leaving and say, this is important work, and I hope that if there are others within the house that are traitors, that they are rooted out. And I'll bow again and make my way back to my quarters.
Shalith, she bows to Delaray as well, and I imagine Delaray dismisses her, seeing that she's useless anyway. So Shalith exits, and she's going to follow Naladin. And once she's feeling safe that Delaray is no longer close enough to listen, she says to you, Naladin, Judicator, a word.
Yeah, I imagine unless she was taking great pains to hide her presence, that he would have known she was following, and he will have been awaiting something to happen. So he'll quickly stop and bow and say, of course, I may be of service.
What just happened with Yaslara? That was suspicious, to say the least. Judicator.
I'll nod slightly and say, well, I cannot say. Well, I did not see anything. I heard enough. There was definitely something that was disturbing her.
She had been interrogating a male beforehand, and it seems that male is still unattended in his room. Would it not be wise for us to go at least speak to the male to figure out what happened?
At that, my eyes will narrow slightly. At the very least, we should go and bring attention to the fact that he's unattended.
I agree.
Perhaps he is among the ranks of traitors, and he has affected her in some way.
When you say that, Shalith's eyes go slightly wide. It's that look of almost naive shock, right? Because Shalith everyone thinks that she is just naive, she's ineffective, she's useless, she's still learning, even though she should have learned already. And so when you say that, Naladin, To you, it looks like, oh yeah, maybe he really is a traitor, like that really earnest belief. And she's going to turn and start walking, and she looks to you and she says, perhaps, Naladine, we should go at least find the male first?
Yes, it would not be good for him to be left unattended until another is found to finish his interrogation.
So what's going to happen, Lloyd, is that Shalith, she's going to act like she doesn't know which interrogation room this is. So she kind of stops at a couple rooms and listens and realizes it's not the room. And she knows the real room this entire time. It's just all putting on a show, right? And she finally gets to the actual room with the unattended male. Well, is unattended male still inside of there?
He is.
So she strides in and she looks at him and she says curtly, what is your name?
So you come into the room and you can see that he is dead.
Dead? Ooh. Was he just, so imagine she says that and then it just makes her look even more incompetent. She sees the dead body and she takes a step back. She expected part of this partly to happen. I mean, that's generally how it goes for people around here. But her mouth is just slightly open and she turns and she looks to Naladin, looking fully shocked, not half shocked.
Yeah, as soon as we discover that there's a body, there'll be a soft sound announcing my blade clearing the sheath as I enter the room, looking around and move outside. I imagine at some place there has to be some guards or attendants around, and I will call out for them. There's been
They run over.
Nefarious going on.
What
If there's any close by, I will glare at them and say, "How could you allow this to happen?" And I'll shove them into the room to where the body lies.
We heard nothing. We heard no struggle. No one entered the room.
Either traitors or incompetent. Either way, I doubt the matron will be happy with how you have performed this day.
When you mention the matron, there's this like look of pure terror that comes across their face.
So which is it?
We heard nothing. There was no sign. No one entered the room. He did not leave the room. The other one looks at him with this look like, obviously he didn't leave the room. He's fucking dead.
In the room. Still maintaining the glare, I'll look between them and say, perhaps then there can be an argument made that you're not at fault. If you are spared, you would do well to heed me and not give me reason to regret. And then I'll leave the room.
Before you leave the room, Naladin, that's Shalith calling you back. She walks to the body and she's going to do a quick check over it. Nothing too in-depth, Lloyd. She just wants to see if there's any like open, fresh wounds.
Yeah, there's a cut on his throat.
She nudges the side of this slitting throat, this broken neck, and she looks to Naladin and she indicates the wound and she says, "You're a man of arms, Judicator. Do you know what kind of blade caused this? A dagger, a rapier, behind, in front?"
At that, as I'm called back, I will sheathe my blade and I'll point to one of the guards and say, "Go fetch someone, both cure perhaps." And then I'll move over to the body and I will kneel down and kind of use the back of my hand to move the chin to open the neck further and examine the wound to see if I can get any indication of what might have been the cause.
Yeah, it's like a blade cut to the throat, deep enough to kill. So he probably bled out in seconds.
Am I able to garner any details, like if the blade was small or large, if it was serrated or not, or is it just
Um,
pretty much a standard wound?
Definitely not serrated, but yeah, beyond that, it's kind of hard to tell.
Is there any? And after discovering that, while I'm still kneeling, I'll like look him over and like lift his arm and inspect his hands and forearms to see if there's any kind of defensive wounds.
No, there's not. It's just this wound.
And it's across his throat, and is it? Am I able to surmise that it was probably from behind and he was taken by surprise?
I don't know if you could tell by looking.
But I can tell that there is no defensive wound, so
Yeah,
it wouldn't be a stretch that I would make that assumption, whether it's correct or not. That would be my thinking, is
Sure.
that he was caught unawares. So I will, at that, I'll rise and say, I cannot be certain. But
Shall I go fetch the matron and the weapon master?
Thankful that I will not be thrust into the matron's presence, I will nod. I will keep guard on the room.
All right. So Shalith will leave him there to guard the dead body. And she's going to go straight to where the matron's throne room is, where her and Nilan, excuse me.
yeah. So in the meantime, I guess the matron would have been questioning you, Nilan. Questioning you about like the exact details of what happened in the cell you visited, the Varunian cell. Like if there were signs of who the other people were, things of that nature, basically. And then like asking you questions like who you would suspect. She also would have cast a zone of truth on you and then made you answer questions like everyone else has been subjected to. But since you also have nothing to hide, nothing would have come up. So I think Shalith, you would enter as Nilan and the matron in quiet conversation by the throne.
She would knock first if there's anything to knock on. She's not just like barging in.
Yeah. So there's guards outside who would like announce you. And then you can enter into this like this huge cavernous sort of throne room with the weapon master standing and the matron sitting in her throne. And it's this like deliberately like long walk to the base of the stairs where you have to like just like act like a worm until you get there.
Shalith approaches and she gives a standard, drow bow to the matron, and she waits to be allowed to speak.
What is the meaning of this interruption? Shalith?
The matron, there has been something of importance that you must know of. Yasla, daughter of Lord Kila, seemed to have went mad. She ran through the hallways screaming, and when Naladin and I went to go check the male that she was interrogating, we found that his throat had been slit and the guards had seen no one enter.
So it takes a deep breath in. What do you mean the guards saw no one enter?
Naladin interrogated them. They said that Yasla ran out screaming and that they saw the male still inside. They then left, and when me and Naladin had arrived, the male was lying face down in a pool of his own blood. Throat slit, according to Naladin, without struggle.
Another deep breath. I will not jump to conclusions. Nilan, see to this.
At once, Your Grace.
Sheila then turns and she will lead Nilan back to the chamber. Actually, on the way there, she wouldn't stop, but she would turn to you, Nilan, and she would say, Loth Kira has taken Yaslara to an interrogation chamber. Yaslara was immobilized by Dilray. Should we gather Loth Kira as well, since she is Yaslara's mother?
I'll speak first to Lashara.
So then she will take Nilan to the room that Loth Kira took Yaslara to.
Sure. So you kind of walk past these various cells until you come to the one that Yaslara is in. She is like sitting at the table or whatever, and she just has this like look of utter confusion on her face because there's like her like eyes are like red from crying. Obviously from
They're red
terror.
anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah. Maybe they're white from crying. I don't know how dry eyes work. But like puffy and swollen, and like from the terror that she had felt, and like she's a bit groggy from the snake venom. But she's sitting there, and she's kind of got this like lost look on her face. Oh,
Lothkira is standing, like kind of pacing around, and just shouting at her. What do you remember? Tell me what happened. You are not a simpleton.
I was overcome with terrible dread. I couldn't stop screaming.
Why? What happened?
Nothing. I was interrogating.
Something had to happen. Think, girl, think.
The door opened, but there was no one there.
What do you mean it
And
opened?
the guard saw this door opening.
Oh, patron. Welcome.
Yeah, I imagine as she says the door opened, Neilon then opens the door and walks in.
Yeah. There's like this fright and the look of Yaslara, who's like, not again. But then she sees like even more frightening, like her grandfather walk into the room. And her eyes just go straight down to the table.
Did the guards see the door open, as you say, and can confirm your wild story? And I'll call for them.
Patient.
Did the door open while the interrogation was happening, as you were guarding? Of its own accord.
And he like looks kind of sheepish and frightened. I don't remember.
He raises an eyebrow. Think harder.
It made no sound. And there was no one there.
But the door opened.
Were you not watching?
I was, priestess. I was. But I don't stand looking at the door. I stand in the corridor facing away from the door. I didn't see it. There was no noise and there was no one there, so I didn't look until I heard the screams.
Nilan's going to go test the door and open it, and if it's silent, he'll kind of look confounded, but if it's a noisy door, he'll probably cut that guard down for incompetence straight up.
Yeah, it wouldn't open totally silently. You know, it's quiet, but it's not like absolutely silent.
Okay. Well, it seems clear to me, he says, putting his hands behind his back and looking approvingly at Lothkira and Lashara. In yonder room was a heretic, a traitor. He tried to use his magic to confound you. He persevered and he was slain by all the actions of the matron's daughters. Congratulations. The matron will be pleased.
Yes, and further evidence that perhaps there are others, males, that use such magics that are still within the house that must be found.
Shelly
Trail
bursts
beyond.
an eyebrow. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Nico.
I was just going to ask loudly, like he probably already knows, but he's asking Naladin or anyone else anyway. To what god did the deceased worship?
Patron, We don't even know who killed the deceased.
Of course, it is the glorious daughter of House Thelak'vel, he says, despite the treacherous magic she persevered and won against it.
And she looks back to the guards, and she asks of the guards, you said that the male was alive when Yaslara left, yes?
I'll step forward and say, I do not believe that is the case. The door was shut when we arrived. They would have no way to see.
And they stand in the corridor.
And it would make sense what Nilan says. The man was struck down with no defensive wounds. If he was in the throes of a spell, he would be unable to defend himself.
But my question is, if the door was opened and she ran out screaming, and the guards did not close the door, then who closed the door, and why was he found in a room with a closed door with a slit throat?
As I said, this point
mystery cannot be wholly understood.
It could also be that there are others, and when one of their kind was found out, that he sought to silence him himself, which only further cements that there are more traitors within the house.
Shalif looks to Lofkira, who is saying something.
My thoughts exactly, brother. If Yaslara indeed had discovered the treachery of this male, then it seems that in the chaos, perhaps someone slipped unnoticed into the room to dispose of him, that he might not reveal the rest of them.
Shalif looks to Yaslara, and she just asks her straight up, did you kill this male?
I don't know. I did a terror that came over me. I don't remember anything from the time I started screaming.
Shalif looks to Lofkila, and she looks down to her feet, being totally subservient when she says this.
Niece, I do not care what you have to say. The patron has given his investigation. The news will be given to the matron. We will keep lookout for the rest of the spies.
Forgive me for speaking out of turn then, Aunt.
No.
And she bites her lip, her lower lip, and then she just goes silent.
Reverend daughters and granddaughters, are you finished with my son?
Yes, patron. I believe that Dylan Ray had questioned Naladin and found him blameless and loyal to Lothan Salvatime.
Of course. And then he'll kind of, through his body language, gesture for Naladin to go walking with him.
Yeah, and it just muscle memory itself, you'll immediately follow in, and perhaps sparing a departing glance and nod to Lofkira before he follows.
Lofkira's gonna... Drow have this kind of sign language, and she'll give you the signal for, come see me later.
So I'll take note of that and then move to catch up with Nilan. And I will remain silent until he addresses me.
He'll take him to the training room, and once the doors are closed and the slaves have left, he'll turn to you while he places his weapons down upon the rack. You're in good health, I trust, and he kind of looks over you to see if you're not scarred or flayed or brutalized, and if so, it'd give you some healing to that degree.
Silver charm favors me still, it seems. I am unscathed.
I noticed your discomfort at council. You would wish that I'd told you of Zoral's treachery before the matron spoke.
Niladin considers for a moment. I trust in your wisdom, and if it's appropriate, if he allows him to do so in private, he'll, say, Father, I apologize for allowing my surprise to take hold of me. I just had not expected this revelation.
When I told your mother and the first daughters of the treachery evident in our house, they called immediately for a sacrifice, even for my own blood. Imagine if you had been with me or privy to this knowledge. Ulvarala called loudest for any who knew of this to be killed outright.
At that, I'll smile and said, I can only imagine. She seems quite up in arms regarding the situation. And as always, your protection in these matters is appreciated.
You fought better than Ulvarala in the battle against House Kurgan and came out less injured than her and covered in more glory. Do not doubt that she would use any chance to disfigure, maim, or kill you. I spared you from the knowledge to spare you from the angst of the matriarchy, he says. We must be patient, spiders that wait, he says.
I'll nod and give a slight grin as I say, it'll be my pleasure to not disappoint you in this and get myself killed, Father.
He nods and goes over to the shelf and pulls out the skin of some animal, and on the back of it has inked the latest kind of topographic map of our location, House Thelak'vel's manor or estate, whatever it's appropriately called. And he'll just kind of leave it pegged down there for Naladin to inspect and say, if you were House of Belan, where would you attack us right now with the greatest powerful males of our house confined to these quarters? And he points with his fingertip here, here, and here.
So at his question, I'll begin looking over the layout, and although we have no way of knowing, I will make the assumption, as we have been able to do with our enemies, that the enemy has been able to procure layouts and information using spies and traders within the house. So I would look for a likely point, perhaps the furthest from where the males would be housed, that would take them the longer to get to, allowing the halls to be breached.
He watches as you unfurl your plan before him and show him these breach points, kill zones, etc. And he'll kind of look approvingly, and he'll gesture to the perhaps the Thelak'vel forces that are kind of stationed about this mock map in array. He'll say, and what if these forces here, and he'll point to kind of two forces that could defend against an incursion. What if they had turned against one another? And he kind of makes it so upon the map to see how Naladin reacts.
I'll study it for a moment and nod and say, although I think the investigation of what just happened works to our benefit, the manner in which the man was killed does seem to point to someone, whether that male was in league or taken out for a reason. I'm most certain that there are others, whether traitor to Silverterm and Loth herself or just to her house or in the ranks.
The only people in those rooms were women other than yourself, and if you swear that you did not kill the man, then I believe you. You should leave them. Leave the females to their murderous ways, he says, and then points back down to the map. If the defense turns upon itself, it can be crushed much easier.
Agreed. And as we were able to take advantage when we took down our enemy, the question of loyalty, even the briefest of doubt, can turn forces against each other and cause a downfall that cannot be overcome.
Agreed. I'll go and tell the matron of your sisters, he means that with an apostrophe at the end, not between the S's, success in finding a traitor, and that the Inquisition goes well. I'll be sure to note to our glorious matron that he too was not a follower of Silverterm, a common thread against those males found wanting within this house.
if I may be so bold, Father, perhaps when you speak to her, that as more males are cleared, if we can find those that are willing to be pledged to Solar Term or at least loyal to the house, that we can form some form of squad, if you will, those that we know we can trust to patrol these weak points that are under our direction, and then I'll bow slowly, or of course your authority.
He turns around the counters the tokens upon the map that he'd kind of forced to be in conflict with one another, and consolidates them into forces at these choke points, and smiles cruelly and says, "The spiders that wait." And then he'll nod respectfully and go to tell the matron on the events that have transpired. Not as they transpired, or as he thinks they transpired, or all the holes in his own story about how it transpired.
And actually,
glorious news, matron. Your Inquisition goes well. Bullshit, no, not bullshit.
Actually, one more thing as you turn and reach the door, he'll say, "Apologies, Father, but one more thing, if I may. Although there is no direct evidence of the failure or collusion of those two guards, with permission, I would like to keep them close so I can keep an eye on them, and if they should prove loyal, to make use of them, and if not, to eliminate them."
They failed in their duty. It is your prerogative as a war leader, he says approvingly.
I'll bow low with that, and then fall silent.
Cool. We might just get a quick break there, guys. I'm going to grab a cup of coffee and go for a wee. And we will see what the matron has to say about your glorious Inquisition and how well it's going. So I'll be back in 5 minutes. We'll buy a break.
Forgive me for backstabbing.
Hey, it's going well. We've already found and eliminated additional traitor. So, hey, we're doing good. It's just the first night.
And all the elder boys have been cleared. So, the powerful males are safe. Which means the house is safer. Well, not under suspicion anyway.
Oh, you guys, I'm not good at this.
Don't say that. Lie like all of us and pretend you do.
Oh, the plotting. I'm so bad at plotting.
Just
Imagine if
go
we
with
put
it,
all our
Taylor.
resources together to plot the downfall of House Bellarn. Wouldn't that be spectacular?
That's what I would like to do.
Listen, some of us just go through very roundabout means of achieving the same goals that we all want.
Oh, yeah?
Trust in Marquise and all will turn out well.
Well, that's not going to happen.
I'm going to go for a glad I didn't get my back flayed smoke. I'll be back.
I don't know about you, Marquise, but I got about 10 contingency plans, buddy.
Dude, I have so many plans on plans. I have plans A through Z, and then I went to the Greek alphabet. Because I know at any point I can roll poorly and everything blows up in my face. So, but I'm not trying to kill anybody. I'm just trying to make sure that our house becomes the strongest house.
Well, in fairness, it'd be a pretty poor idea to start trying to whack off the nobles. That's only going to weaken the house at this
Exactly. So
only
even
until
though
we have a powerful seat among greater noble houses is it even worthwhile to perhaps start trying to usurp a rank or two.
I'm just saying, and I'm not. This might tip my hand a bit too much, but all I'm saying is, if one house thinks another house is trying to whack the nobles, right, and they're going to think that house is weak and underestimate them, and then good things happen for us from there. So, I mean, that's that. But I'll be RB.
Right. Who else is still here?
Me.
I'm here.
I'm trying to think of plans. It's not working.
Dude, I've been blowing Lloyd up with fucking plans. He's like, not again.
All the plotting.
Nilladen maybe will help you out with some plans.
See, the funny part is, though, is despite being the house wizard, nearly every plan of mine revolves around strengthening the house's military. That way we can crush the houses above us, because without a strong militaristic force, all the scheming and backstabbing and espionage and subterfuge really means nothing unless pulled off to absolute perfection.
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of a balance you have to maintain, because if you don't have the magical support, having an army of soldiers won't protect you, as we discovered with our enemy when we took down House Colgan. But the same is true, because wizards and the training that it takes is much more of an investment of time. And
Yes.
so every loss of them compared to the loss of some peon with a sword is very considerable.
Yes, I agree. I'd say it's a much more devastating blow to the house. Some of the higher up houses, they have a considerable force of house wizards. You cannot deny the power of having, a contingent of mighty mages slinging fireballs into the ranks of guys waving steel.
And just have a few people casting heat metal. See how that works.
No, I got one of my plans. You might be able to be of aid to me. There's some resources. I'm planning on erecting gargoyles around the house that can animate as needed. You're picking up what I'm putting down.
Milan and I, yeah, we came into quite the windfall.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last session where we discovered the traders, we got quite a few UC worth of magic items, and if I remember correctly, some money too.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit costly, and I might be able to pull some resources from Sourceer to do it as well. I know there's a what's the name of the house? It's like House Farrell or some shit like that. Was defeated in battle some time ago, and they were known or suspected to have a considerable amount of wealth. However, the house is left in shambles and largely unexplored, for fear of all the wards and traps and whatnot. But if we could, at some point, perhaps send a party out to try to explore and delve into this house, we could procure some wealth that way as well.
Yep, that's a one shot, no question.
I gotta look up the exact name of the house. I forget what it is, but it's just sitting there in fucking ruins.
Well, of course, the house just got a big influx too when we took down House Colgan. I don't know what kind of loots there were, but there may be resources available there too.
Oh man, there's this other house. I forget the name of this one as well. I gotta go look at my fucking Menzo Berenzin book. But it's got a fucking Drider as the house weapon master. I don't know. Maybe we can do something with that.
That's the house from Ched Nassad, right? The House Malaran, I think. The guys who
because Ched
was destroyed.
Was destroyed, right, by the Duragar. And yeah, some of the refugees came over. He might have been from Ched Nassad. I can't remember, but I know he resides as the house weapons master. And being a Drider, there's obviously stipulation that comes with it. He's been challenged numerous times and has came out the victor. So he's definitely powerful. I don't know. Perhaps we can acquire the secret or means of how they got a fucking Drider. Or maybe we can bend that to our favor. I don't know. It's something.
Yeah, I mean, High Priest doesn't make them, but it's like seen as a bad thing.
Right.
We're pre War of the Spider Queen, so that hasn't happened yet, and so that house isn't here.
Is this around the time? Like, what's the time frame of this?
It's before the War of the Spider Queen.
Okay.
So status quo at the kind of maybe 50 years before the War of the Spider Queen or something like that.
Okay.
So
hey,
when
Loth Kira, you there?
I'm here.
What's your thoughts on Dragoloff?
I mean,
I need me a strong womb.
Best pickup line ever.
I need me a strong womb, man.
I got a lot of kids, so
I mean, yeah, a Dragoloth is a pretty ridiculously powerful thing for a house to have. Although it depends a lot on like the ritual involved and whatnot. But yeah, it's a crazy powerful thing.
it's the like demon baby, right?
Yeah, so like you summon a Glabrezu, who's like this big dog-headed demon with the pincers and the little arms, and then you like have ritual sex with that demon, and then you have to like be pregnant for 9 months and then like give birth to this hideous demon baby.
That sounds like so much fun. So much fun.
It's only possible because the like all the priestesses have to sit around and like heal you while you're doing it because like it just like it's a demon, it just like wrecks you.
I'm gonna need a lot of wine.
I'm just saying it'd be a pretty great boon to the house, and it's a one of my I guess you could say shorter term goals, if you will.
Whoever does this, I think Lloyd also deserves a level up for getting destroyed by a demon in a very traumatic manner. That's at least a level up.
You ever see that episode of Family Guy where he's driving the train down the tiny tunnel?
God.
Shudder.
And I mean, this game, like, I had almost no prep done, right? And I just rocked in here, and I basically haven't done anything. I just put some things out there, and you guys are like, "Yeah, I'll just RP for 3 hours. Cool." I'm like, "Great, thanks,
That's
guys."
because I'm sitting here sending you PMs this entire time to get my crazy shit approved.
Right.
There's a fifth. Wait, nope, she's dead. Never mind. Nope, she's dead too.
So how many like thousands of years have we fratricided in the last couple of months?
Oh, in terms of killing people?
Yeah, just like immediate family. Like how many thousands of years of life have we extinguished in fratricide?
A lot.
So, Heath, Teriel overheard what the Nalan said, or Neladin said, right, when he was being interrogated. Sound of silence.
You there?
You never know.
Are you talking about when you went into his room?
Well, when I knocked, because basically I was trying to throw out there that whatever her name's son was casting shade at him to kind of, make the son's position more precarious. That would make her son more, her position more. Because after what just happened with one of her sons being a traitor, if another one, something should befall him, that would really weaken her position. He couldn't find him guilty of anything, so he's going to see if he can eliminate him another way.
Yeah.
It's been much more convenient if you had been a traitor. Oh well,
Yeah.
it'll have to be the fun way.
So looks like we're all back. So, Nilan, you were going to go speak with the matron.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, the guards obviously announce you and let you in. And you can see there's like 3 slaves in front of her that are dead, that have been like whipped to death. And she's like covered in splats of blood and stuff from like the frustration that she has been taking out on these unfortunates. And she's like covered in blood when she turns to look. Yes.
One of your grandsons was killed during the Inquisition.
Killed.
as it was conducted by the high priestesses of Loth. It appears that he had confounded or made dread Yashara. Sorry if I'm saying the names incorrectly. But you know what I mean.
He confounded Yaslara and then was killed.
Possibly. It's certain that he was killed. The guards were found wanting, and so will be dealt with, he says coldly. The traitor's body is still warm if you wish to search his soul. This is possible. Otherwise, it appears a success of the Inquisition. Another weak male, not beloved of Silvertime, so found wanting. The elder boys have all been cleared, glorious matrons, your sons. True.
I suppose that is good news. I will go and speak with this corpse. She stands from the throne and begins to like walk out of her chambers.
Now, I assume in half a millennia of being her gimp, I would know her body language well enough to know if that means that I need to follow her or if I'm dismissed. And if followed, I'll do whatever she says. Okay.
Yeah.
At a point, if it comes to where I'm dismissed, I want to go and like do a perimeter run of the grounds and stuff. I'm starting to get a bit nervous about, not nervous,
Sure.
but yeah, actually it's nerves.
Yeah.
Nervous about an attack while the longer this goes on.
Yeah. So like you walk through the halls with the matron. You've done this a few times, probably countless times throughout the millennia. And everywhere you walk, every drow just like falls onto their face, like puts their forehead onto the ground as she like walks by, and like worships her. And they don't get back up until she's well out of sight. All work stops when she walks by. She makes her way down to the dungeons, into the room where this body is, the deep cut on the throat and the blood all over. And she walks over and with the hand of agony, like grabs the face or the head of this body and begins to like chant. Her eyes roll back in her head as she like speaks in abyssal. And then the body animates. She begins to cast another spell immediately, like the second that one ends, and cast it upon the body. You thing. You're a worshipper of Veyrun. And the corpse goes. And she grabs the face and she crushes the head. There's like a splatter of blood all over the place. The vocal cords ruined.
Fade, what's Corinne's character's name?
Vedrune.
Vedrune, assist your mother, he'll say.
Yeah. The two of them like
only telekinetically, right? Whatever it is, through mind speak.
So she like you can see her like looking at the corpse, and she's like shaking her head. There's no mind. And they like have a quick discussion about how this undead thing doesn't really have the like necessary brain power to like communicate telepathically or like send thoughts, and the matron is continuously displeased. So she her and Fedro like begin to set to the body and like attempt to heal the damage that the matron has done to it now, as well as the damage done to it previously. But they have difficulty doing so. You can see there's like anger writ plain on the matron's face. It seems to not be working. But nonetheless, they kneel down, they continue casting spells, and the matron turns to you and says, "You can go."
He'll nod and make his way for a perimeter check.
As you're walking out, a guard is running towards the door. He almost bumps into you and he stops. Oh, patron, I must speak with the matron. I was told that she is here.
Do I know this drow? I recognize him.
Yeah, he's a guard. You probably wouldn't know his name, but you've seen him around.
Speak, he says.
In the room of Yaslar, we have found something troubling.
His tongue runs along the front of his teeth. And he worries for the man's soul and nerve endings and says, "Go and take it to the matron." Oh God. If I had remorse, I'd feel it for this guy. But after saying that to him, I'll go to continue what I was going to do previously.
Sure. So you want to go check the perimeters and stuff, right?
Be with all the regular males who are guarding the house, anyone who's not in the Inquisition at the moment. Because the idea of Bellan attacking us, we want to provoke them to attack us, but we want to hold out while they do, so that we can get witnesses. So I want to be there for that.
Yeah, and when Nolan left Naladin, he would have left there to collect those two guards, and he would have been going to make his way to inspect the areas that he discussed with his father as well.
So the two of you kind of drill the troops and get them into position and make a run around the perimeter and check everything is in place. What are you doing in the meantime, Thelak'vel?
He drops.
Of course.
He went off somewhere.
What about Love Kira or Shalith? What are you up to?
Hello?
Shalith is waiting in her room because she knows that inevitably the matron will call together all the daughters and the elder sons once she reads the letter that Shalith has left for her to read. So she's waiting patiently in her room, minding her own business, as a daughter should be doing with the Inquisition over.
Cool.
You hear me, my man?
Yes, sir. I was asking what you're up to at this time.
I was about to speak, and with impeccable timing, the call dropped.
Yeah.
I suppose all this time I'll have been in my room, still outfitted in such a way that would befit an aspiring house wizard during his time here. In the various tombs that I have, just making mental note of anything useful, or perhaps my young naivety had not jumped out at me. All the while, carefully listening through the ears of my sneaky little pet.
So you're kind of just biding your time, watching and waiting.
Essentially, I've been confined to my quarters, and I dare not leave unless I gather the ire of one of my outraged sisters, or perhaps mother.
Gotcha. So the Inquisition goes on and on. The perimeter is secure as you explore. It seems to be safe. And as late night turns to early morning, Love Kira, you are going to be going through a trial to determine if you are in fact loyal to the Spider Queen.
I've spent the last several hours meditating and praying and giving small offerings to the Spider Queen.
Yeah, you're brought to the small temple here in House Thelak'vel. All the other priestesses are standing by, and like you've seen many of them kind of go up. There's this very elaborate circle that's been drawn with blood on the ground, and there's candles and offerings and stuff laid out, and it's basically a summoning circle. And you've seen many of the sisters go up and like basically present themselves to the circle, and then something would happen. Generally, it's been the case that like a shimmering spider has appeared, which is like a symbol or a sign that things are fine, that there is loyalty there. One of them was sucked into a portal and never to return. It was like a brief view of the demon web pits, and she was like sucked in there. And yeah, you basically have seen mostly loyal and in favor people, but there have been some exceptions. And now you're up.
Kira is her heart's beating a little quick just from the adrenaline of the moment, but she is not afraid. She is wholly devout in her reverence to the Spider Queen and has no question of her loyalty.
Okay, roll me percentile, please.
'81.
Okay. So, you sit in front of this portal with your arms raised up, looking upwards for Lilith to cast her judgment. And the portal kind of shimmers. You can see the demon web pits within, just these like endless webs with these colossal spiders all around. And there's kind of like a for many of the priestesses, the last time this had happened, someone was sucked in permanently and never to return. You can see the spiders kind of like running around the place, skittering. One of them seems to be coming closer towards the portal.
Do I have my stuff on me? Do I have anything on me?
Yeah. I think you would be dressed however you like.
Okay, I'll just wait and watch. My hands are still outstretched, and I'm muttering prayers to Lolth.
So
Is it
this
still getting
enormous,
closer?
yeah, spider, like 100 feet tall, like moving along this web that like boom, boom. It's like plucked like a string as it moves along. Coming closer to the portal, you can just see like its huge face approaching. There's like this awful stench as well of like death and of like this weird sort of cloying, sickly sweet sort of perfume smell. And you are transported. But you're not in the demon web pits. You're in some sort of demi-plane, it seems. And standing before you is this creature. It's about 15 feet tall. It's got the head of a wolf, two massive pincered arms, and two smaller, like human arms that are like rubbing their hands together, like greedily.
Oh shit!
And it looks down. Yes. The test. Long have I had a compact with the mother of lusts. Does she send you to me to determine if you are loyal?
She does. I am her loyal servant. I await your command.
We will see. It like reaches out with one of its pincers and like grabs you around the waist and like lifts you up into the air. dog face comes very close to yours. Just like awful stink of like raw meat and blood, and like again, this like sick sort of perfume smell, and like brimstone and death. Awful as it like breathes into your face. You might be suitable.
The Spider Queen has blessed me with many children.
Do you ever waver? Do you ever think in your darkest moments when you are alone that things could be better? That perhaps this is not the best order of things?
It is how things are meant to be. The Spider Queen's orders and her rule, they are our ways. They guide us. They see our house to new heights. We are her servants, and she blesses us.
The pincer kind of closes a little bit, squeezing you.
I squirm just a little bit.
You wouldn't be lying to me.
Lord, you may cast whatever magics upon me you wish. I do not lie.
Thank you for granting me permission. Like throws you across the room, and you like smash into a wall. Stomps over after you. There's like fire left. Every step that he takes behind him, there's a flame.
I kind of like pull myself up and then like, kneel and with my head down in deference.
The Spider Queen. Would she expect you to fight? Let's say I wanted to devour you whole. What would you do?
If that is her trial, then I accept it.
I think that you are loyal. You seem strong. You seem capable. And you seem fertile. We will speak again. And then, like, you're like back in that room, having never seemingly left. The others kind of like look in confusion. But there is a symbol that appears of the Spider Queen, which contorts into this sort of strange dog-like form. And there's like a from many of the priestess. You hear Ovirala say no, but you rise, and there's like looks of jealousy on many of the faces.
I'm smiling. I'm not even hiding it. And I bow towards the matron.
Yeah, she's got this look, hard to read, but it looks like maybe it's pride.
Wolfgear just kind of just holds eye contact with her mother for a moment, and then like puts one hand on her stomach and then just looks down.
Yeah, you can still kind of smell that awful stench of that creature's breath, and like see the flames that it left behind it as it walks. But as you kind of like move back into the pack, another priestess moves forward, and the rituals continue. Another day passes, and the Inquisition seems to be complete at this stage. Not many have died, which is surprising. One mysterious death. None were discovered to be obvious followers of Veyruin. You're called, the children and the grandchildren, into the matron's chamber. And she's standing there, looking fairly pleased with herself. And she's doing that pace again, just up and down the line, looking in everyone's eyes or looking at their foreheads as they look down on the ground. And she says, "We have expunged the darkness and the weakness from this house. And this chaos is what the Spider Queen adores most. And in this chaos, ruins have been revealed to us. But also, you've lost a son, and yet the daughters were spared." She continues pacing. "And yet," and she stops, "there's one among you one of my daughters, my granddaughters, who thought that they were beyond investigation, who thought that they were beyond reproach. It seems the pressure broke them." And she like runs, basically like moves in a flash towards Yaslara, and grabs her by the throat, lifts her up into the air bodily. And she's like dangling there. How this matron, who is like quite small, like lifts this drow up into the air with one arm is frightening. Lifts her there, and she's dangling, and you can see like blood running from the cuts that this hand of agony delivers. She looks up at her. "You useless, treacherous shit. Your death will not be quick. It will be public, and it will be agonizing." And she like throws her back behind her, and yes, Lara like grabs at her throat. She's like, "No, no, no!" And does something really dumb. She like pulls a wand from her.
Oh, see, Lithkira was about to like try and maybe say something and risk something, but if she pulls a wand out, no, that girl's dead.
She pulls a wand out and she points it at the matron.
Oh,
"Shit. I didn't do anything. I didn't.
Can I like Scorching Ray her for doing that?
Absolutely.
Let me find my spells.
You just need to roll the hit, I think, and it should be 3. I think you wrote 3d20.
Okay, so one of those will definitely hit.
A Heresy is 13.
Oh, okay, yeah. So 2 of them hit.
Yeah, so that's 4d6 fire damage, I think.
Ooh, ouch, that was gonna hurt. So Lithkira when she sees the daughter pull out the wand, she kind of steps forward and puts her hand out, and this kind of violet energy shoots out, and one ray hits the wall just above Yaslara's head, and the other two slam her, one in the shoulder and one kind of in the chest for 11 damage.
Yeah, they like hit into her, and she like falls to the ground. The wand clatters out of her hand, and the matron just is like standing there with her arms folded, and she like looks to her progeny to see who's going to deal with this.
Stupid girl.
How far is she away from Naladin's position?
Like a movement away. She's not that far.
So when she first draw her wand, Naladin drew his blade, but there's a moment of hesitation as this is a priestess. And as she is taken down by these rays, still standing there with his blade ready, he'll turn to look to Lofkira.
She gives you a nod. Well, actually, she makes nods towards the matron.
So this like brief hesitation of like looks this way and that way. Ulverala steps forward and like rushes towards the girl and plants her like plated boot onto her chest, and there's a sickening like crack as the sternum is broken. She stands over her and she like reaches down and grabs her by the throat and lifts her up. Yaslara is like ragged breathing, broken in half. As Ulverala holds her there, she begins to chant and she heals her, and then like drops her to the ground, casts another spell, rendering her paralyzed. I will see that her agony is endless, matron. And there's a look in the direction of Lofkira.
Lofkira just kind of meets Ulverala's eyes and gives a little half shrug. Like, she's earned it. Nobody pulls a weapon on the matron.
So this is going on, and then there's like a sort of alarm that rings. Dum, 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 dum. And like one of the guards bursts into the room. Haspalarn! Haspalarn! And that's what will end the session.
No. Oh, fuck.
It's going to have to be. Thank you for watching if you did.